Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, trust me, a lot to talk about today. Things are heating up here in the United States between Antifa and the National Guard troops that Trump has sent into Portland. We are having our own terrorist problems. But without question, the biggest story in the world right now is what took place yesterday in Manchester, England. As you know, England now is not the England of 20, 30, 40, or 50 years ago. The United Kingdom, due to wide open borders, massive Muslim migration, and this self-hating multiculturalism that the British political elites have now imposed on their country, have now transformed the United Kingdom in many ways into a Muslim caliphate. And I'm choosing my words now very carefully. London is now essentially an Islamized city. They've had over a Muslim mayor for over a decade. You now see mosques everywhere, Muslims on the streets praying everywhere, blocking traffic. There are now parts of London, literally, that are governed by Sharia law. There is now a rising and virulent and dangerous anti-Semitism that has exploded, not just in Europe, but especially in Great Britain in the wake of the October 7, 2023 Hamas invasion of Israel. The British media have been fanning the flames of anti-Israel hatred, of anti-Semitism. They have been siding with Hamas. They have been siding with the Palestinian terrorists. And it is brainwashing large swaths of the British population. In fact, inciting many Muslims to attack Jews, Jewish synagogues, Jewish schools, Jews literally just walking on the streets. There has been one anti-Semitic incident after another. And then yesterday, what everybody feared would happen, happened. On Yom Kippur, which for the Jews is their highest holy day, many of them in Manchester, as they did in London and other cities, gathered to worship at their main synagogue. A British citizen of Syrian descent, and I'm not making up this name. This literally is his name. His name is Jihad, literally, that's his name. Jihad al-Shami. A Muslim, a fanatical militant Muslim, decided now to strike a blow for Palestine, to strike a blow for Hamas, to strike a blow for Islam. And so he took his car at 9:30 in the morning as worshipers were gathering outside of the major synagogue in Manchester. They were slowly starting to make their way into the synagogue. They were sitting ducks. He took his vehicle and he drove it and plowed it right into the worshipers as they stood outside the synagogue. Bodies were everywhere. And then this madman pulled out a massive knife. Because remember, they have strict gun control in Great Britain. So their homicide rate is just as high, if not higher than ours. But they slaughter each other with knives, not with guns. But you see, for liberals, that's okay. As long as you can kill people, just don't kill them with a gun. That's the liberal mind. But let that go. And so, wielding a knife, he started to fanatically, rabidly stab anybody that he could grab. There was a Jewish security guard. He started to stab him over and over and over again. Then another person that was lying on the ground, he began to stab that person, and then another person, and then another person. Now, what it appears, according to investigators, many witnesses have now said It appeared like he had a suicide belt around his waist, and they thought they saw bombs on his belt. It appears that this lunatic, this Islamic fanatic, wanted to break into the synagogue in order to detonate his suicide belt so he could kill hundreds of Jews. He began to then stab furiously at the windows, smashing them to get into the synagogue. By the time by the grace of God, the police arrived on the scene in about 25 to 30 seconds. According now to investigators and multiple witnesses, had the police not arrived that quickly, he probably would have detonated the bomb, and we would be talking about dozens, if not hundreds of people dead. Listen now. Here is some audio of Jihad al-Shami as he was confronted by police. The police noticed the suicide belt on him. They spot several bombs on his belt, and that's why they had no choice. They shot repeatedly until they killed him. Roll cut 51, Mike.
They killed him. No, they killed him. Hell, they're just...
Everybody else, get back! If you're not involved, move back! Get away! Somebody stay with casualties! Everybody else, he has a bomb! Go away!
He's got a bomb on him! He's got a bomb! Mate, he's got a bomb! Man, he's got a bomb on his jacket, mate! He's trying to go in his...
Yeah.
No!
Yeah, well, look at the piece, huh? Look, hey, look at the peace. Oh, my God, it's so peaceful. What a religion of peace, huh? And you bring in millions and millions of these people into your country, millions of these militant, radical Islamists, for what? Diversity is our strength. It seems to me it's getting a lot of people killed. It doesn't seem to be working it doesn't seem that it's working for Great Britain. Now, 2 are dead. 3 are very seriously wounded. Hospital personnel say they don't know if they'll be able to save their lives. What is very clear now, very clear, is that Jews are no longer safe in Great Britain. There's been, so far this year, over 1,500 anti-Semitic attacks and incidents. 1,500. And I mean Jews getting beaten on the streets just for being Jewish. People getting their heads smashed in because they happen to wear a necklace with the Star of David. Jewish schools being firebombed, graffitied. Jewish homes, like the Nazis used to do. You put the Star of David to identify them as Jews. Every night, for months and months and months, central London, you see a sea, I'm talking a sea, of pro-Palestinian protesters waving Palestinian flag after Palestinian flag, shouting anti-Semitic slogans. From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. Death to the Jews. Death to Israel. Simply one of them, some of these slogans, it's simply Jews kill kids. Now, what Jewish leaders and Jewish citizens of Britain are saying is that now they are so terrified that they are afraid to literally walk the streets. And I don't mean now in the wake of this terrorist attack. They've been saying this now for months. This now just confirmed to them how vulnerable many of them are. Many now say they are going to leave Great Britain. They're going to Israel. In fact, what is remarkable is, as I was reading about this, the British media and their coverage, I don't care if it's the Times of London, the Daily Telegraph, the Guardian, which is a left-wing paper, the Sun, the Daily Mail, take your pick, the BBC, it doesn't matter. British Jew after British Jew, British Jewish citizen after British Jewish citizen have said, I traveled to Israel, even after October 7. Some of them say, I was in Israel. Remember when Iran was launching rockets? They go, I was there. When the Houthis launched rockets, I was there. And they said, I swear to you, I felt safer in Israel, even with missiles coming down, than I do walking the streets of Manchester or London.
This morning, an appalling attack took place in Grumpsall in Manchester. 2 people have died. The attacker has been shot dead by the police. We believe we know their identity, but for safety reasons at the scene, we're unable to confirm at this stage. 3 other members of the public are in a serious condition. We have also made 2 further arrests. And based on what we know, counter-terrorism policing has declared this as a terrorist incident.
6:19 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. That was Lawrence Taylor. He was the, Mike, what is he, the chief of police? British counterterrorism. So, anyway, look, it was a horrible, grisly terrorist attack, in Manchester. It's sending chills, not just throughout the British public, but especially throughout the entire British Jewish community. Here is now the absolute latest. So they now have identified the perpetrator, Jihad al-Shami. I'm not kidding. That's really his name. Jihad did a jihad. And he is the one, 35 years of age, a British citizen of Syrian descent, an Islamist militant, attacked this Jewish synagogue on Yom Kippur, deliberately on Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day of the year for Jews. Also, just a few days before the second anniversary of the October 7 Hamas attacks on Israel. He also apparently had help. Police now have arrested 3 other people who helped him plan, implement, and perpetrate the attack. 2 men, 2 Muslim men, and 1 Muslim woman. So they had basically a terror cell. 2 people are dead. I'm not talking about the terrorist himself. Besides himself, a security guard was killed and another Jewish worshiper was killed. 3 others are in very, very critical condition. He had a suicide belt. He wanted to get into the synagogue. Once he got into the synagogue, his plan was to detonate those bombs and to kill as many Jewish worshipers as possible. Police say there were hundreds in there. So it could have been, a mass casualty terrorist attack. Britain is shocked because Britain now understands that the jihad has come to them. That Britain has demographically been transformed because of open borders. You have a crazy left-wing prime minister, and I said this on X yesterday, and I want to repeat it. By the way, what I said on X yesterday, in Britain now, under their new censorship laws that Keir Starmer has imposed, this is what the left is doing in Europe. It's what they want to do here in the United States. So we should all pay very careful attention. They don't have a First Amendment in Great Britain. They may have given us the Magna Carta. They may have given us the mother of all parliaments. But they don't have a constitution with a Bill of Rights and a First Amendment like we do. That's why I always say, God bless our Constitution, God bless the Bill of Rights, and God bless our First Amendment. For saying that Keir Starmer has appeased Sharia law, which he has, for saying that he's imposed pro-Islam censorship laws in place, which he has, for saying now that by giving the Palestinians or recognizing their, think about it. He recognized a Palestinian state to appease the Muslims in Great Britain. Does that stop them? No. Macron did the same in France. Carney did the same thing in Canada. The government in Australia has done the same thing. So these left-wing governments keep thinking, well, let's just recognize a Palestinian state. Okay, let's recognize and tolerate Sharia law. Okay, let's turn a blind eye to the rising, growing anti-Semitism and Jew hatred, like a toxic poison that is now spreading across Europe, across Great Britain, across the United States, across Canada. Let's all just pretend it's not happening or bury our heads in the sand. And you think it appeases them? No, it emboldens them. Now, the Muslims in Great Britain have already openly said they want every Jew out of Great Britain. They want them out of London. They want them out of Manchester. They want them out of Leeds. They want them out of Oxford. They want them out of every major city and eventually out of the entire country. There is only one religious group in all of Great Britain that for 2 years now, and it's been getting worse and worse, that when they go to worship, their places of worship have to have security guards or else they're going to get massacred where they pray. And that is now the Jews in Great Britain. And they had security guards there, and it didn't mean anything. Because when you're dealing with suicidal jihadists, when you're dealing with Islamic terrorists, they will blow you up, they will slit your throat, they will massacre you, and they don't stop, and they keep coming wave after wave after wave. And now the problem is Great Britain has so appeased Islam, militant, radical, fanatical Islam, that now they are essentially now losing their country, their culture, and their civilization. If you go on social media in Great Britain and say what I'm saying now, that this was an Islamic terrorist attack, and that Britain now has a serious problem with radical Islam, you are going to jail. I would, for what I just said now, if I was in Great Britain, I'm not kidding, under Keir Starmer and the laws that he just passed, I would go to jail. You would go to jail. To say that Islam is a deeply anti-Semitic, anti-Christian religion, which it is, in Great Britain, would land me in jail. Now, are they assimilating? No. The more you appease them, are they grateful? No. Notice, the more that pour into Great Britain, 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, absolutely shocking, stunning terrorist attack in Great Britain. It has shattered the social peace in that country, and it's the reaction. Muslims cheering, literally cheering, the massacre of Jews at a synagogue in Manchester. In fact, as I said earlier, there every night, central London, there's a sea of pro-Palestinian protesters waving Hamas Palestinian flags, chanting anti-Semitic slogans, Jews out, death to the Jews, death to Israel, death to Great Britain, death to America. This is what's happening now. And what I mean by big crowds, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands every single night. On the weekends, it actually gets up to about 1 or 2 million. They are hunting Jews down. You don't have to take my word for it. Just read the British media. Jews are being hunted down in the streets. They are being beaten. They're being assaulted. The Star of David is being ripped off their necks or their yarmulkes if they wear the skull cap. The skull cap is ripped off their heads, and they are told to get out of Great Britain. Now, as Muslims, as militant, fanatical Muslims, murder, rampage, and terrorize. And that's what they're doing. And by the way, their population keeps growing and growing. And these idiots in the European Union and these idiots in the political class of Great Britain, both the conservatives, but especially Labour, just keep these borders wide open. And now what they've done, as I said before, is they've now passed censorship laws. So if you criticize Islam, you go to jail. I'm not kidding. If you criticize open borders, you're considered a, quote, far-right fascist, and they put you in jail. If you even say that this was an Islamic terrorist attack, they put you in jail. So they're trying to silence and muzzle the majority of the British people in order to have them accept being conquered and subjugated by the Islamists. Now, what the British are now waking up to is that their treasonous globalist elites, led by that scumbag, Keir Starmer, have now created a caliphate in London with Sadiq Khan as the mayor, and now with all of these radicalized mosques and radicalized Muslim migrants that they have allowed to pour into their country. And now, combined with the anti-Semitic left, they have formed an unholy alliance. And now, Jew after Jew in Great Britain, Jewish citizen after Jewish citizen, now say, Britain is no longer a safe haven. Britain is not safe. We are being hunted in our own land, we're strangers in our own country. We are going to go to Israel. And what's happening in Britain is happening in Germany. It's happening in Italy. It's happening in France. It's happening in the Netherlands. It's happening in Belgium. It is happening all over Europe. A toxic, evil anti-Semitism, reminiscent of what we saw in the 1930s. You know, the left keeps going on about fascism, fascism, fascism. The only fascists are them. Their hatred for the Jews is so eerily familiar to what we saw on that continent in the 1930s. And I want you to listen to this scumbag, Keir Starmer, because I'm telling you, I believe that this terrorist attack yesterday was the final nail in his political coffin. He is deeply unpopular. His government's ratings are in the toilet. They want a change of government. The British people can feel it. They are losing their country, their culture, their civilization. Listen to this scumbag now claim he's shocked, according to him, that this terrorist attack took place. Roll cut 50. This was Prime Minister Keir Starmer. He was at the airport commenting maybe an hour or two after the attack at the synagogue in Manchester, which is in northern England. Roll cut 50, Mike.
The attack in Manchester this morning is absolutely shocking, and all of our thoughts are with those affected. I'm on my way back to London. When I arrive, I will chair an emergency COBRA meeting. I'm already able to say that additional police assets are being deployed to synagogues across the country, and we will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe.
Right.
I've spoken to Mark Gardner of the CST and Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, and I want to thank the emergency services for the speed of their response.
Absolutely shocking. It's just shocking. It's shocking. So let me get this straight. You go on about recognizing a Palestinian state. You allow Sharia law to be imposed on cities, and London is the big one, but cities all across the country. You allow this. You allow Muslim migrants to pour into your country with these radicalized imams spewing their anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, jihadist hatred over and over and over again. And then you impose censorship on anyone who speaks out and exposes the threat within. And now you're shocked that Jews are being slaughtered on the streets, having their throats slit, that they are now petrified to leave their home. I can read you quote after quote. It's British Jewish citizen after British Jewish citizen. I don't wear the Star of David anymore. I don't wear my yarmulke anymore. I don't wear anything that could give away that I'm Jewish. This is what they say now. I don't tell anybody I'm Jewish. I never speak about my religion or my faith. Because if they find out I'm Jewish, I'm going to be attacked. I'm going to be vilified. I could be stabbed. I could be beaten. I could be assaulted. All you have to do is go to Liverpool, go to Manchester. I don't care. Go to London. What you see is an army of women in burqas from head to toe. The mosques are so overfilled that they take their prayer mats onto the streets and pray in the middle of the street, blocking traffic. There are parts of London that are literally no-go zones. No-go zones. The cops don't go there. Nobody goes there because they will cut your throat. It's exactly like what's happening in Paris, what's happening in Berlin, what's happening in Amsterdam, what you're seeing happening all over Europe. It is a conquest. It is a subjugation. It's an invasion. Britain has one last chance left. Just like with our election of Trump, this was our last chance. And by the grace of God, we did it. The Labour Party must be swept into the dustbin of history. The Conservatives are controlled opposition. They're like the rhinos. Nigel Farage and his Reform Party, who are running on a platform very similar to our beliefs. Instead of America first, it's Britain first. But basically the same principles. Secure the borders. Start deporting all of these illegals. End the Islamization of Great Britain. Restore British history, British culture, the British language, English, the British identity. Stop this onslaught before it is too late. Make Britain Britain again. Now, I don't know. It may be too late for the British. It may be too late for France. It may be too late for Germany. We have to face the prospect that maybe Europe has fallen. I don't want to believe it, but Trump himself said it. He met Keir Starmer, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, to his face in front of the cameras. He said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. My mother is from Scotland. My father is of, German descent. He goes, you may not believe this because I'm such a staunch American patriot, but I love Europe. I love the countries of Europe. I love the distinct national identities and cultures of every country in Europe. You guys are committing suicide. You have to regain control of your borders and gain control of mass immigration before you guys are completely replaced. And that is now what the Brits have to decide for themselves. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. I want you to listen to this, okay? Because trust me on this. I'm pivoting in about 2 minutes to the United States. I'll take calls on what happened in Britain. Don't get me wrong. But if you think this is only a European phenomenon or a British phenomenon, the Islamization of the West and this unholy alliance that radical Islam and the radical left have now formed, I'm telling you, it's here in the United States. And this is our future if we don't wake up and speak out now. So, these are ordinary residents who live in Manchester. Some are Jewish, some are Christian, some are a-religious or irreligious. You know, this is it's from the entire spectrum. This is what life is now like when you have millions and millions and millions of militant Muslims, unassimilated, and you allow them to pour into your country, and you give them Sharia, and you give them multiculturalism, and you give them all the anti-Semitism they're begging for, and you wrap yourself in the Hamas-Palestinian flag, and you think if you throw Israel under the bus that they're going to be grateful, and instead, listen to these residents tell you what life is now like in Manchester and in cities across Great Britain. Roll cut 62, Mike.
We know the basics, and it's devastating to hear on the holiest day of the year for the Jewish community.
And today is Yom Kippur. It's a very holy festival, and I'm Jewish and absolutely terrified. It's just absolutely frightening because I'm scared for my own safety and my mum's safety.
I would say fear, anger, worry, and just sadness for the victims of the victims that have been caught up in this.
And it goes on and on. I mean, look, Britain is about to fall. And what's very sad is for 1,500 years, do you have any idea how many European countries, European peoples fought off Muslim invasion, Ottoman invasion, Islamic invasion for Christendom and for Western civilization? And now, after fighting them off for 1,500 years, God knows how many millions and millions of people died, including, frankly, my ancestors, if we're going to get personal about it. And now you just open the floodgates? Like you just lay down and just surrender? You just throw it all away? It's an act of civilizational suicide. It's something it's unbelievable. Now, I want you to listen now. This is not Manchester, Great Britain. Okay, this is not Manchester, England. This is now Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn, Michigan. Now, a couple of weeks ago, at a Dearborn City Council meeting, a Christian resident, okay, he lives in Dearborn, taxpayer, an American, his name is Ted Barham, went to the city council and complained because there are now several streets in Dearborn. The street signs have been renamed honoring an Arab American news publisher by the name of Osama Siblani. Osama Siblani, and this is a matter of public record, has written editorial after editorial or published editorial after editorial supporting Hamas, supporting Hezbollah, supporting acts of Islamic terrorism, calls for the annihilation of Israel and the Jewish people, who goes on and says you have to fight against the Jews. Use guns, use rocks, use bottles, use knives, use whatever you have to use to finally defeat and annihilate them. Now, They're honoring this savage, this Jew-hating, anti-Semitic, anti-American, Islamist savage. Because apparently he's got some of these newspapers that are big in the Muslim community, in particular in Dearborn and in other places around the United States. And so they've named not one but two avenues after him. Okay, this is in Dearborn. And so Ted Barham goes to the city council, and you can look at the footage, don't take my word for it, very politely, very respectfully, says, as a Christian and as an American, I am deeply disturbed by this. He goes, whatever you all think of Sablani, he supported terrorist groups. He supported terrorism. He actually called for the murder and annihilation of the Jewish people. He goes, that's not who we are in America. That's not what we're about. This is not what we should be about. And then he ends, he made a kind of a plea to please take down these signs and stop honoring this guy. And he says, look, and he quotes from Jesus, he says, blessed are the peacemakers. This guy wasn't a peacemaker. This guy was a wannabe jihadist who supported mass murder and genocide. And we're honoring him? Now, the city council, a lot of the representatives there, Muslim, went absolutely, apoplectic. People in the room thought they were going to strangle him. But then the most shocking of all was the mayor of Dearborn was there. He was at the city council meeting, sitting on that panel. The mayor, Abdullah Hamoud, told this resident to his face, by the way, yelling, screaming, berating. This is what he said. Although you live here, you are not welcome here. This is what that's what he says to him. And then he goes on to say to him that what he said was extremely offensive. And he said, if you don't like it, that this guy Sablani's name is on these signs, well, then the best suggestion I have for you is not to drive, the former street's name is Warren Avenue, is to not drive on Warren Avenue or to close your eyes while you're doing it. And he goes on to say that his name is up there, it's going to stay up there, that he attended a ceremony celebrating it because he's done a lot for this community. Abdullah Hamoud, the mayor of Dearborn, said. And then he went then he went on the attack. And notice now, this is where the Muslims learned the language of the left. The multicultural, racist language of the left. He then goes after. Now remember, all this guy Ted Barham said was he supported Hezbollah, Hamas, terrorism, murder, and the indiscriminate killing of Jews. We don't want that in America. Blessed are the peacemakers. Can we just make peace? Can we find people that are peaceful to put them up on a sign, on a street sign? Then, Hamoud, now he's losing his temper. He starts accusing Ted Barham, this Christian minister, of being a bigot, and you are racist, and you are an Islamophobe. And then he says, although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city, i.e. Dearborn, will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of this city. Boy, very tolerant, huh? Oh my God, look at how tolerant they are. Now, as many people pointed out, this is not original on my part. Whenever Islam begins to take political control, whether it's a town, it's a city, whatever it may be, what do they start to do? They start to expel people who criticize them, who they view as opponents, who don't agree with them. There's no tolerance within Islam. So already now in Dearborn, they're telling this Christian minister and frankly Christians, you're not welcome here, man. And if we're going to put up signs celebrating mass murdering jihadists and people who champion mass murder and jihad, and you don't like it, get the hell out, because you're not welcome here. You see, that's what the Muslims did in Manchester. That's what they're doing in London. That's what they're doing in all over Europe. They come and then they claim it's ours. You don't like it? Leave. Leave. And in other words, it's no longer your country. It's our country. So, Christians are now being told to blank off and get out of Dearborn. Now, what do you think is going to happen if it's not Dearborn, but now it's Zoran Mamdani in New York? What do you think is going to happen if tomorrow it's Chicago? Or let's go back up to Dearborn. It's then Detroit. And they start taking over states. In other words, I'm going to get banned in Keir Starmer's Britain, and I would go to jail for this. But it's the truth. So here it is. Let me pull a Charlie Kirk. Prove me wrong. Show me where Islam has been the majority faith anywhere in the world. Anywhere. There's over 57, almost 60 countries, Muslim majority countries, where they can peacefully coexist with other religions. Show me one. Just show me one. Now you see it in Dearborn. Here is a city, it's just a small city, that Muslims now are increasingly dominant, okay, becoming the majority, if not already the majority, and already in that city, they can't peacefully coexist with Christians. You're a racist. You're an Islamophobe. You're a bigot. You don't like it here. You get out. You get out. You get out. You're not welcome here. I throw parade. I throw big parade when you leave. That's Dearborn. That's Dearborn. And they're already flexing their muscles. Now, let me make one final point, and then I want to go to you, the great audience of Kuhner Country. 617-266-6868 is the number. And I think Sandy made a very good point. This was her point off air. What you're really seeing now, at least in the short term, and in Great Britain, it is really clear. Okay, that's why I'm going back to Great Britain, but it's here in America. But there, it's so stark. There are hundreds of thousands, and by the way, even after the massacre yesterday in Manchester, they didn't take a break in London from their massive protests for the Palestinians against Israel. Even with Jewish bodies dead on the streets, I swear to you, hundreds and hundreds, I think it was 500,000, turned out, sea of Palestinian flags. Death to the Jews. Death to Israel. What do we want? Dead Jews. When do we want it? Now. From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. All right? Many of them with the kafia. And, of course, the women dressed, head to toe. Head to toe. So they couldn't even wait 24 freaking hours. But let that go. In Great Britain, the left is virulently anti-Israel. And virulently, by the way, anti-West, anti-American, very pro-open borders. They're pro-multicultural, and they're also pro-Islam, and very anti-Semitic, and anti-Christian. So, you have the radical left. Many of these leftists are on the streets, protesting shoulder to shoulder with these Muslim jihadists, with these Muslim militants, the Islamic fundamentalists. So you've got, I'm not kidding, you've got women in burqas, and I'm talking thousands of them, side by side with radical feminists, noses pierced, green hair, blue hair, whatever, and they're both together side by side shouting, down with Israel, down with Christianity, down with America, down with the West. The left is using Islam. The left are using Muslims for now in order to attack the Jews, to attack Israel, to attack Christianity, to attack Christians, to attack Western civilization. They're using, to attack America, they're using Muslims as almost like a battering ram to impose open borders and mass migration, unlimited immigration for the ultimate cultural, demographic, historic destruction, cultural destruction of the West. It's clear. The one group they will always defend are the Muslims and Islam. And by the way, and transgenderism. So if you look at it, because they see both movements will destroy the family, will destroy our culture, will destroy Christianity, will destroy the Jews, will destroy religion, and will destroy the essence of the West, the civilization of the West. What the left doesn't realize is that eventually the Muslims are going to turn on them. They throw gays and lesbians from rooftops. The Quran is explicit. Death to gays, death to lesbians, death to homosexuals. Transgenderism, they find an absolute abomination. An abomination. Sexual promiscuity. You know, all this shacking up together, multiple sexual partners and polygamy or polyamory or whatever it is, the swingers. I mean, unless it's men marrying multiple women. Outside of that, to the women out there, they're going to put you in a burqa. So you can talk feminism night, all day, all night. Believe me, Britain now is not going to be feminist much longer. Trust me. They're going to put you in a burqa. So what these idiot liberals don't understand is once they get rid of the Jews, and once they get rid of the Christians, and once they bring Great Britain and Europe to its knees, and then eventually America to its knees, they're coming after you. They're coming after you. And they're going to wipe you out and subjugate you and oppress you and conquer you the way they've oppressed and conquered everybody else. Because in the end, what we now can clearly see, whether it's in Dearborn, whether it's in Canada, we just saw it again in Great Britain, whether it's in Germany, whether it's in France, whether it's in Italy, whether it's in the Netherlands, I could go on and on. There's no freaking peace. There's no peace. And by the way, just so that you know, this scumbag who attacked that synagogue, Great Britain let his parents in who fled the war in Syria. All of these, there was a big terrorist attack in Berlin that the German authorities just barely foiled. They were Muslim migrants that Angela Merkel, the previous chancellor, let in. So they're in a war. You bring them in as so-called refugees. You put them on welfare. You give them free meals, a roof over their head, welfare, pocket money. If they want jobs, many of them don't want to work, but whatever. They put them in universities. I mean, you roll out the freaking red carpet, and many of them now, it's been years. They've been in these countries now, I'm talking the refugees, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And they're still on freaking welfare. And this is the thanks that you get? Literally, this is the thanks that you get. And then they tell you to your face, you're not welcome here. Get out. Get out. The Jews throughout history have been the canary in the coal mine. You look at what happens to the Jews, and you can see what's going to happen to the rest of us. The Jews, as I speak to you now, are being chased out of Germany again, out of France, out of the Netherlands, out of Italy. Now they're being chased out of Great Britain, the mother country, the mother of Parliament, the land of Magna Carta, where political freedom was born, where religious tolerance was born. They're being chased out of Canada. They're being chased out of Australia. They've been chased out of the entire Middle East with the exception of Israel. 617-266-6868 is the number. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
Hello. I hope you're feeling better, Jeff.
I am, Arthur. Day by day, I'm getting better. Arthur, please go ahead. I know you got very strong feelings about what happened in Great Britain and obviously what's going on in Dearborn and in this country. I got to ask you, as a Jew, Arthur, as an American Jew, I know you're a great American patriot, but you're also Jewish, and God bless you. On Yom Kippur, the holiest of Jewish holy days, to see this kind of a massacre and to see the celebrations on the streets by so many on the British left and so many British Muslims. Delirious, chanting, dancing, celebrating, almost like Britain won the World Cup in soccer. Hundreds of thousands on the streets with bullhorns and waving flags and playing music, celebrating this slaughter, this massacre. What's going through your mind, Arthur?
Surprised it was only that one incident, given the state of things in the world today. And to begin with, the first comment I want to make is there won't be any, I doubt that there will be any peace with Hamas because I don't think they have any hostages left. I'm sure they're all dead, and that's the basis for that stupid peace proposal that Trump wants to give Hamas and reward them for what they've done. Well, this anti-Semitic rise in this country and in the world can be directly attributed to the rise of all the Muslim refugees and all the Palestinian refugees, and they multiply and they hide in the countries. Okay, they don't. You don't see them all the time, but believe me, there's more than people think there are. And our first contact with the Palestinian terrorists, I don't know if you remember who it was, but you will when I mention it. The person who assassinated Bobby Kennedy, Sirhan, was a Palestinian.
That's right.
And that was the beginning. Okay. And they're all over New York and New Jersey, and we're going to have one of the greatest city in the world is going to be run by the same kind of mayor that they have in London. And in London, they have Sharia law. They, like you said, there used to be one place where nobody would go, including the police. Now there's many, but these people get elected, just like they get elected here. Now, in Dearborn, Michigan, he told this guy, this decent American person, who's just like you and me, I don't want you in my city. Okay? It's his city. and this is going on all over this country. And unless we get up and fight, we're in a war, Jeff. We're in a war. They're at war with us. Terrorism and anti-Jew hatred is the same as Christian hatred. They're the same thing. We both the religions are similar, and that's the reason that the Pilgrims came to America. And maybe we've forgotten what that's all about. Of course, they don't teach history anymore. All they do is teach hatred of America. You know, the only flag you can't fly without getting into trouble is the American flag anymore. Hello?
I'm listening to every word, Arthur.
And September 1st in Detroit, Michigan, Rashida Tlaib, this mayor of Dearborn, and this other terrorist supporter, Nidal Jabbour, they had a big Palestinian conference in Detroit, and the stuff that they were out saying about we've just gotten started, and the thing about these people is they all say that Israel is committing genocide. Another example of they accuse us of what they're doing, and Israel. Nobody fights a war like Israel. That they do their best not to kill innocent civilians, and for that they get accused of killing civilians. It's really sad what's happening in this country. But you have to fight. They're fighting for what they want, and they're successful at it, and they get away with it. Nothing happens to them. But if this guy gets elected in New York. You know what? We're going to have another London. Just like you look all over our country, every major city is run with third world leadership. It's no wonder the things that are happening in this country. And I keep telling you all the time, Jeff, you are not safe anywhere. And you have to think like that. You have to look behind your back, and don't forget you have a family. You've got children. People have to fight for the future of their children. And if I were Jewish people in England, I'd get out of there.
Oh, I so agree with you. I'm so happy you said that, Arthur, because that was one of the points I wanted to make as well. Look, I'm like you, Arthur. I'm a fighter. I don't like to give in. I don't like to surrender. But you got to be realistic. What are they now? But there's only 300,000 Jewish citizens left in Britain. They're something like 0.4% of the population. I mean, they're surrounded. They're massively outnumbered. The government won't protect them. Anti-Semitism is everywhere. Come on, don't be suicidal. If I was a Jewish person living in Great Britain, in England, get out. Get out. You can also text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. This is from 978. Jeff, I ask your audience to answer my question. Name a single country where Muslims coexist peacefully with other faiths. That's a great question. I mean, honestly, it's a great question. Okay, you got to hear this. Now, remember, this is very important in terms of context. The British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has recognized a Palestinian state. Now, I don't know what you're recognizing because there's nothing to recognize. Who's the government? Who's going to be in charge? What are the borders? I mean, it's ridiculous, but it doesn't matter. He caved. He gave the mob on the streets what they wanted. They wanted recognition. So he's recognized a Palestinian state. He gave them what they wanted. Listen now to this, okay? It's unbelievable. This is from 617. Jeff, did you see the footage? Pro-Hamas protests at 10 Downing Street. That's where the Prime Minister lives. That's where Keir Starmer lives, like their White House. And this person goes on to say, Jeff, Islamists are never satisfied until the conquest is complete. And this is the thanks Starmer gets after caving at the United Nations, declaring a Palestinian state. Now, what you're seeing are videos showing up now of mobs of pro-Palestinian protesters, many of them with keffiyehs or waving the Palestinian flag or dressed all in black, but they're clashing with police. And I mean, there's hundreds of police. And the police and these protesters are really going at it. And the protesters are trying to storm 10 Downing Street. This was last night, after the massacre. And the British people, that's what I mean. It's been such a shocking event. They're like, but we gave you what you wanted. You wanted a Palestinian state. What more can we do? We've now recognized a Palestinian state. And you want to storm 10 Downing Street? You want to what? Overthrow the government? After Jews have been slaughtered in Manchester? In a deliberate, premeditated terrorist attack? Now, this is from a friend of mine. He's British, okay? English, to be exact. And he asked that his name not be used. And he has sent me some videos. This is really chilling. And it's disgusting. These are videos. And let me just quickly describe the crowd. Many of them are white. They're not wearing like a hijab or a keffiyeh. They look like British leftists. Okay, they just by looking at them, they're white. They're not covering their heads or anything. They're holding bullhorns, and they're mixed with a lot of women who are dressed head to toe. A lot of men wearing keffiyehs, and this is in city after city. I'm talking Birmingham, Manchester, London, Leeds. It just goes on. It's city after city. It's all the big cities in Britain. And you can see them. There are masked men waving Palestinian flags, like on a table or whatever. And they're dancing, they're singing, they're celebrating, they're playing songs. And what they're screaming and yelling and shouting and celebrating is, this is in the wake of the deaths. So they're happy that these Jews have been massacred. And they're shouting, free, free Palestine, free, free Palestine. And they're like dancing and moving, and they're like delirious. Like it's like a rock festival, like going to a concert. And they're just like, they are boogieing. Like this is one of the happiest days of their lives. Dead Jews have been killed and massacred. Yes, get more of them. Don't stop. And so this is what he wrote to me. Jeff, please don't use my name. The situation now in Great Britain is very dangerous. Here are videos of the celebrations of the Manchester synagogue murders, and they have spread to many UK cities last evening. The dead Jews were not even cold yet, and they celebrate. They know they are untouchable and that the government fears them. One final point, and that is true. The government is petrified of them. The British public now is petrified of them. And they know they're untouchable. Now, in Britain, to show you how insane it's become, and this is Europe, this is Germany, this is what J.D. Vance was telling them a couple months ago, saying, you guys have no freedom of speech left. You guys are destroying democracy to appease Islam. In Great Britain, if you are to say this was an Islamic terrorist attack, you go to jail. If you are to criticize Islam in any way, shape, or form, you go to jail. If you say anything that a Muslim might consider quote unquote offensive, you get fined and you go to jail. You know, a tweet, a post on social media, anything. But if you dance on the streets waving the flag of terrorists, celebrating the mass murder of innocent Jewish worshipers. And by the way, the cops are everywhere. They're watching this. They can see it. Nothing happens to you. Nothing happens to you. Not one arrest. Britain has fallen. I'm telling you, Britain, like France and other countries, they have now fallen. And Britain's only chance is now Nigel Farage and the Reform Party. If President Trump's people are listening, you've got to get on the phone with Nigel Farage and say, whatever help you need, we will provide. He must win the next election. Period. Period. This is like Churchill 1939, 1940. It's Farage or bust. And like then, it was Churchill or bust. And I got to say this. This is the land of Richard the Lionheart? Seriously, this is the land of Churchill? This is the land of the country that stood alone against the Nazi juggernaut? This is the land of the British Empire that once covered 1/4 of the globe? And this is what you've been reduced to? To keffiyehs and burqas and Palestinian flags and cheering the murder of innocent Jews and kowtowing to these Islamist savages and living in fear and cowering in front of them? Holy, I don't know what else to say. And by the way, I was in England, what was it, 1997? It wasn't like this in 1997. This has all been done in the last 20, 25 years. It literally, Great Britain, England is unrecognizable. Rob in Boston. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Jeff.
Rob, it was my mistake. Sorry, do you laugh or you cry? I only had 20 seconds when I went to you. I didn't hear Mike. That was my fault. Okay, lines are blazing. Let's go right to Rob in Boston. Rob, you managed to say Jeff, and then we have to go to break. So please, Rob, pick up where you left off.
Jeff. Ready?
Go ahead, Rob.
Hey, on the offense, Jeff. Again, listen, language counts. Please, let's just use our own lexicon, not their lexicon. It's awful listening to those things. I'm sorry. But listen, understand a couple things. Palestinians are Arabs. They sided with Hitler during World War II. So did the Muslim Brotherhood. They sided with Hitler. It's about ideology, not about religion, okay? And I'm on the offense at all times with these people. I don't listen to the noise by the lefties because you have the red-green revolution here, and it's all proactive here. And all these Democrats who cave for these people, it's all performative, and they need each other. I don't care about the Democrats in Boston. They deserve what they get because they caused this whole mess. Now, listen, Jeff, the bottom line is this. I am the only candidate in the 8th Congressional District running as a patriot and a Trump candidate. All these other phonies. Don't trust the Republicans. You can't trust them. They're all in on it, too. But anyways, Jeff, on the offense, okay? You got to be on the offense at all times with these people. And whatever these people say, who cares? This is our country. They're going to have to take it away from me, and I'm willing to put it all on the line, Jeff, and I'm not waiting for anybody to give me permission.
Rob, what should we do regarding that mayor in Dearborn, the Muslim mayor, Abdullah Hammoud? who now they're putting up all of these street signs celebrating a jihadist, somebody who was championing Hezbollah and Hamas. He was this big publisher, Arab American news publisher, but clearly he was a pro-Hezbollah, pro-Hamas Jew hater. There's no question. He sympathized with terrorists, Islamic terrorists. And when you confront them and say you shouldn't have these signs there, these street signs, he told that Christian minister, you're not welcome in Dearborn. Get out. Basically saying Christians are not welcome in Dearborn. Anybody who criticizes these Islamic terrorists and jihadists are not welcome in Dearborn. Basically, it's my city. It's no longer your city. What should we do with people like that, Rob?
We have our own place right here in Boston. We can use this as a training ground. Boycott the hell out of the city of Boston. Do not spend any money in here and put a total offense on boycotting this place. This is where they hatch these crazy ideas and spread them to Dearborn, Michigan. So I would say let's go after the Boston city and boycott the crap out of this place.
Rob, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. You know, you do, as the mayor of any city, take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. When you start telling people that other religions are not allowed, when you start telling them that Christianity is not welcome or Christians are not welcome, and that you have to now support pro-genocide, pro-jihadist Muslim extremists on street signs, or else get out of my city because it's no longer your city, it's my city. I'm thinking you just violated your oath. I mean, this stuff may work in Gaza or in the West Bank or in Iran or take your pick or London. But no, not here in America. Not yet, anyway. Am I wrong? I'd be looking. He should be stripped from his office. I mean, this is Sharia law. They're trying to impose and implement Sharia law in Dearborn. It's so obvious. 617-266-6868 is the number. And on that note, let me ask all of you. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's quality roofing, siding, and windows. And honestly, I hope as many of you can participate as possible. I would love to get the temperature of Kuhner Country on this. So, again, poll question of the day. Should Sharia law be banned in the United States? They're trying to impose it in Dearborn, but the mayor there, it's obvious. And now in other parts of America, in parts of Texas, in parts of Chicago, in other parts of the country where Muslim communities are now a majority. So, should Sharia law be officially banned in the United States? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X. Again, last night I was very active on X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in national ER. I'm a hell yes on this. I'm a hell yes. And if you want to see what Sharia law gets you, Manchester, they have Sharia law. In Great Britain, in England. London, Sharia law. I could go on and on. And this is what Sharia law breeds. Okay? Parts of Paris, France, Sharia law. I could give you country after country. No thanks. No, no, in this country, no way. No way. Joe in Abington. Thanks for holding, Joe, and welcome.
Jeff, you're a former history professor, and you know this saying, and it reminded me in your morning monologue, and it just kept saying to myself, those who do not learn from history are condemned to repeat it. And that's who Keir Starmer is. He reminds me exactly of Neville Chamberlain 87 years ago when he went to visit Hitler.
Joe, I agree with you. The only thing is, I'm not saying this, I'm not trying to quibble or, I'm just being honest with you. Chamberlain was much smarter. I mean, he was wrong, but I'm just saying this guy's a complete moron. I mean, just a complete imbecile. Just an airhead leftist. Like, as stupid is, as stupid does. With Chamberlain, what he did was wrong. Don't get me wrong, but there was a Great Depression. They had just had a world war 20 years ago, less than 20 years ago. The British public didn't want another world war. I'm not excusing. I'm just saying, as an historian, Joe, you go, well, okay, there were reasons I could understand why, when Chamberlain came back and waved that paper, famously, peace in our time, he had something like 90% approval rating. Again, I'm not defending what he did, but what I'm just saying is you can look as an historian at Chamberlain and the circumstances, the context, and say, even Churchill in the end didn't really blame him. He said, look, he just misunderstood Hitler. He made a fundamental misjudgment. But, he was a smart guy. He loved his country. He wanted what was best. Even Churchill said he had good motives, good intentions. So, yeah, Chamberlain was wrong. But this, Joe, really, I mean, they're swarming all over your country. You're bringing them in. You can see what they've done to your country, to France, to neighboring countries. All he did with Trump, all Trump did for hours and hours is talk to him about the Muslim threat inside Britain, saying you've got to secure your borders, man. You've got to start deporting these people. They're literally going to steal your culture, your country, everything. You're going to have terrorist attack after terrorist attack after terrorist attack. He goes like, hello, can't you see what's happening? Don't you walk down London? So what I'm saying is, how do I say it? The barbarians are not just at the gates. They're climbing over the gates. They're inside the city. They're pillaging, rampaging, raping, murdering, looting. And this idiot, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. I'm going to call a meeting of the council and we're going to discuss this. You got to get him out of there. Joe, I'm telling you, this guy, oh my God. I thought Joe Biden was brain dead. At least Joe Biden, he had dementia. That's an excuse. This guy, what's his excuse? Joe, final word to you, my friend.
Yes, just as we are being betrayed by the Democrat Party, which is basically a communist party, even not the lunatic left. Nancy Pelosi is pretty way out there. Chuck Schmoozer is way out there. Raskin is way out there. He's not complete radical left like AOC. England has their version of American Democrats, and they're called Labour and Keir Starmer. All this unfortunate attack that happened last night is, come on in, sorry. This unfortunate attack that happened is, I lost my train of thought.
No, look, it showed just how dangerous now the situation is. And look, Joe, I think, your Munich analogy is such a good one. History is repeating itself. It is. There's no question now. And now the enemy is clearly within. And again, I know I said it in my opening monologue, but this bears repeating. Jihad al-Shami. That's the name of the attacker. First of all, when a guy's first name is called Jihad, I don't think you should be letting them in. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. You import terrorists, you're going to get terrorist attacks. I mean, it's just common sense, okay? Anyway, he takes his car, his vehicle. He deliberately targets worshipers as they're, remember now, the synagogue is full. It's the highest holy day of the year for the Jewish people. Okay, it's Yom Kippur. So you have a big crowd overflowing. They're outside the doors, out in front of the synagogue. There are several security guards, and they've been having this now for a couple of years. Every synagogue in Britain now has security guards because they're constantly being targeted. So he knows now they're standing, they're observing, they're worshiping. The last thing they think of is somebody's going to ram him with a car. He takes his car, full speed, plows right into these worshipers, gets out of his car, wielding this mother knife, yelling, screaming, shouting. He starts stabbing people. He stabs the Jewish security guard. I mean, knifing them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's just sticking that knife in there. Pandemonium. Bodies on the ground. They lock the door. They don't want to let him in. He takes his knife and he starts smashing the windows. The police now, thankfully, arrive on the scene. Had they not arrived that quick, my God, they see the suicide belt. And people are yelling now, bomb, bomb, bomb. He wanted to get into the synagogue to detonate the bombs that he had strapped on him. So he could have killed, we're talking 200, 300, 400 dead. Now, and they're celebrating on the streets of London and every major city. Ordinary British leftists, not just the British Muslims. Together, you know what you mentioned, Joe, the Red-Green Alliance. Green is the color of Islam. Red is historically the color of communism. You're seeing now a communist or a Marxist Muslim alliance here in Britain, in Europe, and they're waving the Palestinian flag and literally dancing out of joy that this man pulled off this murderous, heinous terrorist attack. In a sense, I'm telling you, what happened in Britain now, trust me when I tell you this is their Charlie Kirk moment. Remember how we were disgusted, not just that Kirk had been assassinated, but almost as disgusting was the celebration by so many on the left, how they were glorifying it, boasting about it, cheering it, and the whole country recoiled like, oh my God, these people are disgusting. Oh my God, they have no conscience. They have no soul. And it kind of opened our eyes to how evil the left had become. That's what Britain is now experiencing. It's hundreds of thousands on the streets. Yeah, 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 let's party, yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, free, free Palestine, free, free Palestine. Like I said, like Britain just won, like England just won the World Cup in soccer. And the silent majority, like in this country, is looking at this, and let me tell you, you know what they're saying? 2 words, Nigel Farage. We're voting reform, and we don't care what the media tells us. You can call us racist, Islamophobic, bigots, blah, 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 blah. We don't give a damn. Because this country is going right down the toilet. And that's the way the Charlie Kirk assassination was a watershed in this country, where the Democrats have never recovered. Keir Starmer and Labour are never going to recover from this. Mark my words. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. 8-ish. I'm a tad late. I apologize. Normally we should do it 8 o'clock on the nose, but let that go. It's Friday. You know what that means. Kuhner's Call Log, Caller of the Week.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Mark.
I'm sick of these giant spending bills. You know what someone ought to do, Jeff? Get a list of all these things that need to be funded. Go like paying our troops. Put a bill up. This is my bill to pay the troops. Let's vote on it. And let's see how many Democrats don't vote to pay those troops. Just these single isolated things, Jeff. Walk in there with 40 bills. But this is what they do. It's the DC two-step. They do one thing, and then they stab you in the back by putting in these poison pills. Then they cannot want to vote for it. Then they can turn around, and they can say, oh, they hate the police. They don't want to secure the border. They voted against this border bill. You know, this is the garbage that has to stop. And you do that by cutting these bills down to size, having small bills that just tackle individual departments, you know, State Department, you know, Health and Human Services, you know, the national parks, the military. Do smaller bills that take away their ability to insert this garbage.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please don't be a stranger. Call again. Best audience in the business. Full stop. Chris in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Chris, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi.
I just had to let you know that not only is London going to the dogs, I mean, where I used to live back in the 1970s, I lived in the northwest, about 50 miles north of Manchester. I lived in the Lake District, which is probably one of the most beautiful parts of the country. And I've been to London, and in the 70s already you saw a lot of Arabs and Pakistanis and Indians and other foreigners. In fact, I remember remarking to my then husband that you were hard-pressed to see many Anglo-Saxons. And this was 1970, 71. Then, of course, I lived in the Lake District, and most of the people there were very British, very, very patriotic, and very proud of being British. And if I could have told them then what was going to come in this era, they would have never believed me. But now I see that even in the Lake District, they are proposing to build a mosque, and I cannot believe it. And many of the people are protesting it, and they're not racist. They're just patriotic people, and they have had rallies there with both protesters and supporters. And many of the people who are supporting the mosque being built right in Cumbria, which is where I live, the county, they are they're white English people who have converted to Muslim. But I can't believe it. I mean, they have a very small population of Muslim people in the Lake District now. But, gosh, when I lived there, you never would have dreamed of anything like that coming to England, and especially the rural parts. I mean, London, yeah, you could see it coming then, but not the rural areas. I mean, we were only about 40 miles from Scotland, and the people there, well, like I said, they were so British and so patriotic and very pro-American too. I used to hang my flag out every 4th of July, and some of my elderly neighbors would come to the door and knock on the door and bring me bouquets of flowers and congratulate me on my Independence Day. And they loved Americans, and they were, they were just thrilled to have an American living amongst them. But the only people there that were foreign in the Lake District that I could see during my 4 years there were tourists, and they had thousands and thousands of tourists that would come through every year. But I mean, basically the population, the regular year-round population, they were just British people who loved their country and were very patriotic.
Oh, those days are gone, Chris. Those days are gone. You still have pockets of it, obviously, but those days are long gone. And look, even, I know what you're talking about, London, but even then, the Indians, Pakistanis, you mentioned Arabs, but notice their accents were British. Their mannerisms were British. I mean, it may take a generation or two, but they assimilated. That's the point. What's changed as well when you go to London, it's not just that you look around and you're in a third world country, but they haven't assimilated. They don't speak English. You hear every language but English. They're not assimilating at all. So you feel like you're in little Pakistan or in little India or, especially in the Middle East, you literally feel you walk throughout parts of large chunks of London now, and you're like, I'm in the Middle East. Religiously, culturally, there's Sharia law everywhere. So, and that's why they don't want the mosques up in that Manchester part, because they do the morning prayer at 5 in the morning. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go to Anthony in New Hampshire, but just before I do, we have to stare reality in the face. After what has just happened in England, in Britain, in the United Kingdom, what is happening all across Europe. Again, there was another potential terrorist attack by 3 Muslim migrants. This was in Germany. And apparently it would be a mass casualty attack. They're saying, because now people are slowly getting ready. I know it's still a bit early, but they're getting ready for Christmas. And in Europe, it's a big thing, and they like to start celebrating it early. And so some people are already buying Christmas trees or potentially buying Christmas trees. And this was an attack that was going to target Christians who were planning on buying trees for Christmas. And they said they were looking at killing hundreds of people. And these were 3 Muslim migrants, 2 men, 1 woman, and these were people that were let in by Angela Merkel. And it was foiled, thank the Lord, by German authorities at the last possible second. They go, this could have been what happened in Britain on steroids. So what I'm saying is, this is happening now all across Western Europe. Now, here in America, in St. Paul, Minneapolis, because they have brought in so many Somali Muslim migrants, this is Ilhan Omar's people. Some people did something. In parts of St. Paul, Minneapolis, they have already established Sharia law. Some parts that are Muslim majority, mostly Somalis, have Sharia law. And as part of Sharia law, they are able to do the Muslim call to prayer over the loudspeaker, even if it's at 4 o'clock in the morning. And other neighbors are complaining. They say it's driving them crazy. It's very loud. It's very disruptive. It wakes them up. Some people, they go to bed very late because they work later or they work different shifts. And they say it's just, they go, this is unacceptable. You wouldn't allow this for anything else. You'd be saying this is disturbing the peace. But they make exceptions under Sharia law for these mosques, these mega mosques. These are giant mosques with their massive loudspeakers and their calls, especially the morning call to prayer. In Dearborn, which is now really becoming a Muslim Mecca in the United States, they have parts of Dearborn, Sharia law. Same thing. Muslim call to prayer over loudspeakers in the morning. Non-Muslim residents say it wakes them up, they can't sleep, it's driving them crazy, on top of so many other things. Now they're putting up signs that literally glorify people who defend terrorism and Islamic jihadism. And if you complain, you're told, get out, this city is not for you, you're not welcome here anymore. So I've got to ask all of you, are we going to be like Britain in 10 to 15 years? Because we're starting to go down that road. 617-266-6868. Anthony in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Anthony, and welcome.
Yes, as always. Half of my family is from England. I've been there many, many a times when my parents got divorced when I was 8 years old. I'm the same age as you, 56. My mother used to send me every summer to go stay at my Nana's house in London. It, just like the lady before me said, it started back then. It's just that it wasn't overwhelming, so you didn't notice it in 97 when you went. but they were there, and they hide their relatives just like we have going on here, where the Hispanics will have their relatives come visit them, and then they overstay their visas. So even though this attack was tragic, that's not how they're killing us. They're killing us the same way that the immigrants are here. And I've said it on your show many a times. And if Trump's people are listening, you need to crack down on them shipping stuff home. They're avoiding the remittance tax by just shipping the goods via cargo. So what's happening in England is that they're taking up all the social benefit resources, and they're doing the same exact thing that they do here. They're shipping the money back home to the foreign countries. So basically you have the United States and England with their social benefits supporting the third world countries all around the world. This is going to kill their system, and it's going to kill our system. And yes, don't get me wrong, the violence that is there, it's going to be part of the spear, but they're bleeding us dry by taking our money. And they're going to bankrupt us, and we're going to be helpless because we don't have the money anymore. And for your poll question, in this country, we're a little bit more lucky because I was on the messenger with my cousin, and she happens to be gay. So she's like one of those people, that's on the fence. She sees what's happening in her community, but she leans a little bit to the left.
Anthony, I'm up against a break. Can you please hang on? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go right back to Anthony in New Hampshire. Anthony has a lot of family who are English. He spent a lot of time in his youth in London, in England. He has a cousin who happens to be gay, and this cousin is on the fence, leans a little bit to the left, but can see what the hell is going on in Britain and across Europe, and especially with this rising tide of radical Islam, how the LGBTQ community is going to be treated in the long run. Anthony, please pick up where you left off.
Yes. So as I was saying, Jeff, and this goes to the poll question, I had to literally tell her to please don't respond on Messenger because I don't want my cousin to go to jail for saying that it's anything but. So she says it's just the immigrants. She'll just say, oh, the immigrants are taking all the benefits, and we're left without housing, and we're left with low food budgets, and all this craziness. But deep down inside, I had to tell her, listen, the Muslims hate the Jews more, but they hate the gays just a little bit less. And we've already dealt with it in this country where they shoot up the gay nightclubs in Florida. So please be careful. As far as the poll question goes, this is America, and we have the First Amendment, and the government is not supposed to sponsor any religion. So if they're allowing the loudspeakers to play the Quran music, then that's a violation of church and state. And if it was my town that was doing it, I would immediately sue them for allowing it to go on because it violates the First Amendment.
Well, it's funny you should say that. By the way, your point is dead on, Anthony. The argument, just to show you, this is the argument now that these Muslim activists are making. Ilhan Omar makes this argument. Rashida Tlaib, she makes this argument. They're all making this argument, whether it's in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, or in Dearborn. They say that, yeah, you guys can talk about separation of church and state, but that's only for Christians and Jews. Their argument is, in Islam, we don't recognize separation, this is what they call it, of mosque and state. In Islam, the mosque is the state. The state is the mosque. And remember, Islam literally means submission. So what they say is you have to not just have religious submission, moral submission, political submission, cultural, civilizational submission. So if you notice, wherever Muslims become a majority, they don't just, they impose Islamic law, they impose Sharia law, but they also impose a theocracy. Now, some are a little more strict, some are a little bit less strict, but there's no such thing as separation of mosque and state. And so their argument is, well, yeah, okay, Anthony, but that's because Christians recognize the separation of church and state. Jews recognize the separation of church and state. We don't. So your constitution may apply to you, but it doesn't apply to us. What do you say? What's your counter argument, Anthony?
Welcome to America, where the Constitution is supreme. You can stick your Sharia law where the sun doesn't shine because it doesn't fly here. And the Second Amendment protects the First.
Anthony, thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868 is the number. Bruce in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Bruce, and welcome. Oh, boy, the moonbats are out in full force. My God, you got to see him in Britain. Oh, Bruce, it's scary, man. Seriously, it's scary. You see them with, 15 hair colors, purple, green, yellow, I don't know. Their eyes are pierced. I mean, everything is pierced. And they're dancing and celebrating the massacre at this synagogue, shoulder to shoulder with women in burqas and men in keffiyehs. And they're all partying together. It's a zoo. What's going on in Britain now is a zoo. The country is falling apart right in front of our eyes. Bruce, go ahead, my friend.
It's sickening, Jeff. But you open your borders up to these people who want to do harm to, and they get backed by the freaks, and it's just ridiculous, Jeff. I mean, we are living in the same situation that they are living. It's happening to us, just like the previous caller said. But it's happening even more over there because they tolerate it. I'm not tolerating it. We don't need to tolerate it. And I've been wanting to call in. You've been so busy with everything going on. Just been a lot of bad things happening all over the world, but it's happening here. And we got to open our eyes and we can't allow it. Jeff,
well, this has got to be a wake-up call. Bruce, I'm so with you. Look, we have one very important advantage. Okay, there's a saving grace, and the Europeans openly admit this. We haven't reached critical mass in terms of the number of Islamic fundamentalists, Muslim militants that we've allowed into our country. The numbers are still relatively low. And as long as they stay relatively low, we'll be able to manage. The problem is Europe is much closer to the Middle East, and where these refugees are coming in from Lebanon and from Syria and from all these other places, and their borders were I know we had it very bad under Biden, but their borders have been much more wide open for a much longer period of time. So we have a lot of illegal aliens. And increasingly they're becoming Muslim, but we still have a lot of illegals from other parts of the world. So the concentration is not as high here in terms of Muslim populations that you have, say, in Britain, in Italy, in Germany, in France, in the Netherlands, increasingly now Sweden, Norway, Denmark. I mean, they're just massive numbers. And demography is destiny. Numbers are numbers are numbers. I mean, it's just a fact. So we can still nip this in the bud. And that's what Trump is warning the Europeans. He said, you got to do it now. If you don't do it now, that's it. It's over. You can't put that genie back in the bottle. And that's why he's telling us, I'm going to keep that border sealed. Because if we keep it open, listen, they're going to come here. And after a while, when they hit about 10, 15% of the population, you're cooked. Many of them are on welfare. So remember, they're not working. They're living off the fat of the land. So they have the time, I'm serious, the money, the time to breed, to put it crudely. That's why, go to any of these European countries, they're all on welfare. I mean, whatever, 90% of them. The overwhelming majority are on welfare. And then look at their families. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 children. Well, the average Brit has 1 child per family. So do the math. You have, on welfare, 7, 8, 9 kids versus 1 kid. Give it 10, 20, 30 years. You're going to be a stranger in your own country. So the Europeans now have a demographic ticking time bomb. And that's why it's not just that they brought them in. It's that they then gave them all of these lavish social welfare benefits. The way we're doing it with illegals here as well. And the more children they have, the more money they get. Just like here. So we can still stop this, but we have to wake up. We have to open our eyes and see the world as it is, not as we want it to be. Bruce, thank you very much for that call. Okay, I want to read this to you. Okay, please, all of you. I promise I'm going to take more calls. But this is now what they're facing in Britain. And I hope to God we never face this here in the United States. So this is a post on social media. It's by a British Jewish person. And this was posted yesterday. Okay, so the day of the bombing. The day of the terrorist attack, the knife attack at the synagogue in Manchester. Quote, "This morning, as I sat in a London synagogue for Yom Kippur services, a friend sitting next to me said, 'I reckon Jews have about 10 years left in this country.' I said I disagreed, and that it's not as bad as it seems. About 20 minutes later, the service was suddenly interrupted. A synagogue security official went up to the bima and said there had been a major incident in the north, and they were locking down the synagogue. There was a buzz of fear. Children's services were canceled. We were not to leave. My friend looked at me and said, 'You see what I mean? 10 years. In 2025, 2 Jews were murdered for the crime of praying in a synagogue in Britain. And the truth is, I don't know a single Jewish family in London who doesn't speak openly and often about leaving. These are dyed-in-the-wool Brits who love this country, but they are watching the England they know disintegrate around them." 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, all of you, please stop what you're doing. You need to hear this. This is one of those deeply unpleasant truths that the media in this country are trying to suppress, that the media in Britain are trying to suppress, and that the media, frankly, across the West and Europe are desperately trying to suppress. And this is the problem now. Let's just take the United Kingdom, okay? Just Great Britain, because of that terrorist slaughter, that Islamic terrorist slaughter that took place yesterday in Manchester. These are official government statistics from London, British government statistics. United Kingdom Muslims are 6.5% of the population, but they are responsible for, listen to this, 97% of terror deaths. This is in Britain now. 97% of terror deaths since the year 2000. 90% of MI5, that's their kind of version of the FBI, 90% of MI5's terror watch list, 75% of terror threats, 84% of child gang rapes. Oh my God. 18% of the entire prison population, 6,000 female genital mutilations a year. A year. 1.5 times the birth defect rate. Now, you're going to say, Jeff, whoa. Why do they have such a much higher birth defect rate than the rest of the entire non-Muslim population? Because as has been, recounted in news story after news story, there is a lot of inbreeding among some of these communities. It's a fact. And what I mean is, cousins marrying cousins, i.e. first cousin or second cousin. So there is a high inbreeding rate, incest, whatever you want to call it. And that leads to a much higher rate in birth defects. By the way, this is common in many Muslim countries, not just in some Muslim communities that you see like in Great Britain. But the media doesn't want you to know any of this. 48.6% of the people in Britain aged 16 to 64, 65 is their retirement age, who are not employed are UK Muslims. Okay, let's not quibble. Basically, 50% of those who are unemployed in the United Kingdom from age 16 to the time you retire are Muslims. And they're only 6.5% of the population. They're not working. 27%, they call it social housing, like public housing here. Low-income public housing. 27% in social housing. In other words, many of them are living disproportionately, are living on welfare, are not working, are having a lot of children, are committing a disproportionate amount of the crimes, are committing a ton of the terrorism, are taking public housing. They're literally gonna bankrupt Britain's welfare state. Now, okay, at least you'd say, but if they were grateful, hey, I'm on welfare, but thank you. Hey, we're all, I don't want to work, but thank you. No. They hate Britain. They hate Britain's culture, Britain's history, Britain's heritage. They hate its Christian roots. They hate the Jews. My God, do they hate the Jews. And they are there to take over, and they make no bones about it. You openly ask them, what is your goal? To Islamize Britain. Just like when you ask them in other European countries, they go, we are here to Islamize Europe. And now, thanks to the big mouth mayor of Dearborn, we know here in Dearborn, no, you're not welcome here. We're here to Islamize Dearborn and every city we're the majority in. And we're letting them in. Why? Like, really, why? Why are we letting them in? Here, and let me just throw one other thing. To show you, I get emails from people, the Palestinians, honest to God. I swear, you just want to blow your brains out. So, Keir Starmer does what many leftists and some on the right now, Jeff, you got to recognize the Palestinians, independence, self-determination. Okay. Keir Starmer says we're recognizing a Palestinian state. All of it. We don't even care who's running it. You want Hamas to run it? Run it. You want Muslim Brotherhood? Let the Muslim Brotherhood. You want Abbas and the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank to run it? Run it. We don't care. So, do the Palestinians say thank you? Nope. Within 24 hours of Keir Starmer recognizing an independent Palestinian state, Abbas demanded, because of the British influence in the Middle East in the 1920s, the 1930s, what happened with the creation of Palestine, and the British role in the Middle East and Israel, and what happened in 1948, Abbas turns around and says, you owe us $2 trillion in reparations. $2 trillion with a T. In other words, blank you. Send more money. By the way, $2 trillion would literally bankrupt Britain. You're done. You're finished. The country's done. Kaput. It's over. So, Britain gives you what you want. Recognition as an independent state. Diplomatic recognition at the United Nations, no less. And their response within 24 hours is blackmail, shakedown, and guilt. No. Now you gotta pay up $2 trillion. $2 trillion. So what? You guys can steal it all? That's what you're supporting. Whether you know it or not, that's what you're supporting. It is the destruction of Europe, the destruction of the West. Politically, religiously, culturally, and yes, economically. 617-266-6868. Tom in Lynn. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Yes, sir. I like to look at the Hamas charter in the context of Mein Kampf. I have very little patience with these protesters because, like the NFL players kneeling down during the national anthem, they have no idea of Hindenburg or the Reichstagsfire, the Enabling Act, or Hitler. He was in prison. He wrote Mein Kampf in prison. I read Mein Kampf. Anyone who read Mein Kampf, what happened subsequently in Germany should have come as no surprise to anyone, but they didn't take him seriously. I read the Hamas charter. It was revised recently in the last few years. Hamas distanced themselves from the Muslim Brotherhood in order to seem, soften their image with the neighboring Arab states. And most importantly, the explicit and vile references to Jews were removed and replaced with the word Zion, Zionist, Zionism. So anyone who read the Hamas charter, what's happening in Dearborn, England, Ireland, Australia, should come as no surprise, which is why the AFD is on the rise in Germany. Go ahead.
Oh, there's no question. No, look, you're completely right. Look, the AFD is the salvation of Germany. The alternative for Deutschland, right? The alternative for Germany. It's a conservative party. It's a populist party. By the way, it's a very pro-Israel party. It's a very pro-Jewish party. It's a free market party. They say this climate change, this Green New Deal that they've had to deal with has destroyed the German middle class, which is true. You think energy costs are high in Massachusetts. My God, you got to see the bill these poor German households get every single month. So they've used climate change to ruin the middle class. They've opened up their borders completely. Germany is completely inundated. And look, to give the Germans their due, they were thoroughly denazified after World War II. They were. I cannot tell you, there is still a small Jewish community in Germany. And I can't tell you how many times they've emailed me or contacted me and said, Jeff, the safest country in Europe for a Jewish person is Germany. The Germans were so denazified that you have no idea. They don't touch. I mean, they so tolerate us. It's unbelievable. What's happened now is that anti-Semitism is rising again, but it's not from native Germans. It's from all the Muslims that Angela Merkel brought in from the Middle East. They're the ones now that are targeting our synagogues and our schools and our communities. But the point being, the alternative for Deutschland, the AFD, to me is the salvation of Germany. Marine Le Pen is the salvation of France. Nigel Farage is the salvation of Great Britain. Donald Trump is the salvation of America. In other words, and I don't just mean for the country, if you're Jewish, The right is the only party, the movement that will save you. It's not the left. The left now has made a fatal decision. They have made their bed with Islam. It's the Red-Green Alliance. And so they're going to sell the Jews down the river. If you're a Christian, you're crazy if you're not on the right. If you're Jewish, you're crazy if you're not on the right. Frankly, if you're a gay, lesbian person, you're crazy if you're not on the right. Because the Muslims, and you can see it in Europe, they will cut your throat from ear to ear. So, in other words, if you're a quote-unquote minority, the salvation is not the left, it's the right. And for the life of me, I don't get these people. I swear to you, I don't get them. How they still, to now, at this late hour, maybe 30, 40 years ago, okay, maybe. But now, you're going to back the left after the deal they've made with the devil? So I'm with you all the way. And look, Hamas has been crystal clear in its charter and crystal clear in their actions. They literally call for the annihilation of Israel, the extermination and expulsion of every single Jew from Israel and from the entire Middle East. That is at the heart of their charter. And that's why the moment they got power, they didn't start building homes and hospitals and roads and trying to get investment and build their, that strip up economically, culturally. No. The moment they got their freedom, their autonomy, rocket attack after rocket attack after rocket attack after rocket attack. So Hamas is not interested in peace with Israel. What they want to do is they want to finish what Hitler started. And now this cancer, this virus of finishing what Hitler started, has now seeped its way back into Europe. Look, I'm telling you as an historian, this is the real story of our time. Notice, Keir Starmer, whenever there's an act of violence, or Biden, when he was president, or the left now, or the Democrats, it doesn't matter. They always look for a far-right Nazi angle. Right? MAGA, fascists, Nazis, Hitler. Keir Starmer is the same. Okay, he's going after Nigel Farage. Farage is now Hitler. Macron and the left in France, Le Pen, Marie Le Pen, she's Hitler. Okay, AFD, they're Hitler in Germany. It's the same freaking playbook. But who are they in bed with? They're in bed with the real anti-Semites. They're in bed with the real Jew haters. They're the ones who are backing a movement and a people that call for the extermination and annihilation and violence and persecution of the Jews. They're the ones in bed with these rabid, disgusting anti-Semites and Jew haters. It's all coming from them. It's all coming from the left. This is now the 1930s all over again. If you want to say, well, Jeff, how could a Hitler have come to power? How could fascism have come to power? Look at the hatred now you're seeing everywhere against Jews. And notice here, even during the Charlie Kirk assassination, I have to say it. No, it couldn't be a pro-transgender Antifa leftist. Even though he said he was a pro-transgender Antifa leftist. And he wrote notes. And he engraved the bullets. And we have, online evidence after online evidence. And I could go on and on. No. It has to be the Jews. Somehow the Jews. Israel, Mossad, somehow, some way. It doesn't matter. Anytime now, no matter what happens anywhere. Here, Antifa now is rampaging in Portland. They're surrounding an ICE detention center. Trump has had to call in 200 National Guard troops. They're clashing now with the National Guard. The Jews, What do you mean the Jews? Israel's behind this. They're behind Antifa. It's Mossad. You're crazy, man. Why would Israel want Antifa to burn buildings and burn cities to the ground? The United States is pretty much now its only ally. Charlie Kirk was one of their biggest defenders in the media. Why would they want him killed? Well, he was turning on them. He made a few criticisms. That's it. But even then, where's your evidence? Like, what, we just going to make stuff up? And notice, it's always the Jews. So you wonder the 1930s, well, how could everybody blame the Jews for everything? Look around you now. Everything is always at the feet of the Jews. And that's what's really spreading now in Britain and in Europe. I mean, it's disgusting. Really, it's disgusting. So I'm telling you, the 1930s are back. And we saw how the 1930s ended. It did not end well. And that's why Trump is urging Europe, before it's too late, stand up against this cancer before it devours all of us. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. I want to read to you something. Again, just to show you how magnificent and brilliant our founding fathers were. Okay, here is a quote, and this is from a texter, 603, but he makes such a good point. This is what George Washington famously said, okay? This is what he said. And it wasn't about Islam. It was about generally threats in general. Quote, experience teaches us that it is much easier to prevent an enemy from posting themselves than it is to dislodge them after they have got possession. Okay? In plain English, because they speak in that kind of 18th century style, in other words, it's better, always better to defeat an enemy before he penetrates you, your country, your territory, where you are. Once they come in, once they infiltrate in, it's very hard to dislodge them. In other words, the best defense is a good offense. Keep them out. Once you let them in, it's almost impossible to get them out. And this is what 603 wrote to me in a text. Jeff, this is the wisest advice that can be directly applied to this situation of Islamic importation, the importing of Islam. And of course it comes from one of our wisest founders, George Washington. Unfortunately, for it to be effective, wise advice like this needs to be heeded beforehand, not after the fact. After the enemy has been allowed to enter the gates of the city, before too long, the city will be theirs. That's what you're now seeing in Britain and in Europe. They let the enemy into the gates, through the gates. Now they're inside the gates. And now they're looking at each other and they're saying, how do we get them out? How do we get them out? Don't let them in. Washington was right. Dan in Dartmouth. Thanks for holding, Dan, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. How are you today?
Very good. How are you, Dan?
I'm good. Hey, Jeff, I want to just make a couple of points about this. Number one, the Muslim people, the Muslim religion, there are some peaceful people. I have to say, they do want peace. Although the Quran is written in a way that there are several editions that are extremely aggressive and violent to anybody that is not part of the Islamic faith, especially going after Christianity. So anybody that does not then become a Muslim in the Islamic, they can go through caliphate. They can basically chop your head off. So anybody that is in the world that does not become Muslim, join the Islamic faith, they are going to be inevitably wiped out, killed, removed from society. Therefore, it has to be back on the Islamic faith, the Muslims, the peaceful Muslims, to denounce all of that aggressive aspects of the Quran and remove it from the Quran. And until they do, they need to be out for what they are. They're an international terrorist group. And that needs to be...
Dan, can you do me a favor? This is such an important call. I'm up against a break. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, let's go right back to Dan in Dartmouth. Dan, you were saying obviously there are many peaceful Muslims. However, there are also very violent, as you put it, aggressive, belligerent passages in the Quran, which are cited by many imams and, of course, by many militant Muslims as a justification for their violence and terrorism, and even for many of them to call for a global Islamic caliphate, a kind of world Muslim empire. And you're saying unless peaceful Muslims start to denounce these incendiary calls for terrorism and for this Islamic caliphate, then what you're staring at is not really a religion, but almost like an international terrorist organization or an international terrorist group. Did I sum up your position accurately, Dan?
Yes, Jeff. And here is the key to the whole thing, is that it needs to be done from within the faith. The Muslims need to do this on their own accord, but it will never happen unless there is pressure, global pressure on them to actually conduct the revisions of the Quran and remove and extract all of those aggressive, violent, terroristic type tactics that are in the Quran. In that way, it needs to be called out as an international terrorist organization or group. And they need to be sanctioned or some kind of methodology to put pressure on that religion so that it is essentially modified and revised, the Quran, so that the people can live in peace. And I bet there are many, a good percentage of the Islamic faith that would want this to happen. It's probably a large percentage, might be like 60 to 80%. Usually you get most of your aggressive, actors in a small percentage of a group. So it would allow them to actually put pressure on the Muslim faith itself, or else it will never, ever end. It will never end, Jeff.
Dan, in other words, if I hear you correctly, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, you're saying just as Christianity had a profound reformation, Judaism had a profound reformation. For example, Catholics and Protestants, we don't fight holy wars against each other, right? As we did 400, 500, 600 years ago. We don't slaughter each other over differences regarding, biblical interpretations or theological differences. That Islam needs to have a profound reformation the way Christianity and Judaism have. And once they have that profound reformation, then the peaceful Muslims will win out and this cancer will finally be excised, correct?
Absolutely correct, yes. 1,000%, Jeff.
Interesting. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Dan, I want to thank you for your courage because you're saying what many people are thinking, but they're afraid to say it. And thank you very much for that call. 617-266-6868. Well, I'll tell you this. You're not going to get that from Keir Starmer. He's not calling for no reformation of, reform of Islam. You're not getting that from Macron. You're not getting, I could just, run down leader after leader. You're not getting that. The Democratic Party, you're not getting that. The media, you're not getting that. 617. In other words, you're not going to get the truth. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Nick in Weymouth. Thanks for holding, Nick, and welcome.
Is it a religion or a cult? I'm going with the latter. We don't know the percentages of the radical Islamists, but apparently what they inflict seems to indicate a large percentage. There's also a large percentage of people who aren't like that are Muslims, but they're not going to do anything about it. Why? Well, what have they been around? 1,100 years, whatever. Hasn't changed, only gotten worse. So they are Reformation. There are no signs of Reformation. It's never going to happen. And goddamn, the people of New York City, if they elect, forget democratic socialists, that party was spawned by two huge communist groups for cover. Angela Davis, Susan Rosenberg, and the like. Okay, if they do that, in spite of what was happened on 9/11 in this particular country here, and the devastation it caused, they deserve every bad thing that will happen to them. In Europe, we have a Muslim country because of what happened with parts of Yugoslavia, etc., Sarajevo, Kosovo, etc. That was assisted greatly by the United States. That would be Bill Clinton's administration. So there are Republicans and Democrats responsible for that crap. They are embracing the Muslim religion just like the Nazis did. The Nazis used them. Does anybody remember that? Does anybody even understand what actually happened in Yugoslavia? Why those two groups hate each other? Bad blood goes back several hundred years, including World War II. Hey, Jeffrey, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that call, Nick. Yeah, you're talking about the Balkans, but the thing that really unleashed the spigot was, frankly, the war in Afghanistan and the war in Iraq. That's what really destabilized the Middle East, especially Iraq. And then eventually you had the civil war in Syria, and that's where all of these millions and millions of Muslim migrants poured into Europe. And the Europeans were so stupid, they let them in. 617-266-6868. Okay, going to go right to the calls, but before I do, joining us now, as she always does at this time, she's the co-founder, CEO, president of Kelly Financial Services, and yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. When it comes to retirement, women often face a different journey. We live longer, we sometimes earn less, and many of us step out of the workforce to care for family. That's why it's so important to have a retirement plan designed with women in mind. We continue to share our popular and valuable guide, 10 Tips to Empower Women Investors, is filled with practical strategies like keeping money in your own name, paying yourself first, facing financial fears head on, and planning for your family's future. These steps help give you confidence and control over your financial destiny. Your retirement deserves a plan that's as strong and unique as you are. To request your free copy, just give us a call or email us at kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I will continue this conversation with our Kelly advisors tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or go to our website for our radio rewind. And Jeff, we're so excited for our event with you on October 15th. It's getting closer and we cannot wait.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have it at the iHeart Studio. I'm going to be talking about current events, family, obviously everything Kelly Financial has done for the Kuhner Report. I'm so looking forward to it. And I believe there are still a few tickets you can grab if you want to come. 888-800-1881. 888-800-1881. Kelly, have a wonderful weekend. Okay, 617-266 6868 is the number. All right, just very, very quickly. You got to hear this. You really got to hear this. You want to see the kind of savages that they've allowed into Britain and frankly into Europe. So I want you to think about this. You have this vile, premeditated terrorist attack at a synagogue in Manchester. Stabbed to death, people rammed with a car, dead bodies. You've got 3 seriously wounded, a man with a suicide belt that wanted to detonate a couple of bombs and blow up hundreds of Jews praying inside a synagogue. That very night, so the bodies are not even cold yet. Okay, the dead Jewish bodies are not even cold. There is this massive rally in central London, a pro-Palestinian rally. Part of the people in the rally, I'm looking at the video right now, this is going everywhere, are young Muslim men. You see a few women with the hijab and the burqa and everything, but they're mostly young Muslim men. They're all waving the Palestinian flag. They're talking, singing, and chanting in Arabic. Not English, Arabic. And here's what they're chanting. Now remember, that's maybe 12 hours, maybe? After that, horrific terrorist attack? Listen to this. And when they chant, I don't have their rhythm. Let's put it that way, but I'll do my best. Kaibar, Kaibar, Ya Yahud. Jaish Muhammad Sufa Yahud. And they keep saying it over and over and over. And the men are raising their hand, like their right hand in the sky. And they're like, the joy at the massacre of these Jews is terrifying. They're like dancing, doing like pirouettes. I mean, you got to see them like they're in ecstasy. Like it's almost like this is heaven. Like, yeah, the Jews are dead. We killed them. Yeah, 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 yeah. So what this means is Kaibar, Kaibar, O Jews, the army of Muhammad will return. And they keep repeating that over and over again. Now, you're like me. You're saying, what the hell is Kaibar? What are you going on about Kaibar, Kaibar? You want to see what a bunch of primitive medieval savages, literally medieval savages we're dealing with? Kaibar, Kaibar references, and by the way, you spell Kaibar, look it up. Please, don't take my word for me. Don't take my word for it. Kaibar is spelled K-H-A-Y-B-A-R. Okay, Kaibar. It references the Battle of Kaibar of 628 A.D. 1,400 years ago. In the Middle Ages. In fact, the very early Middle Ages. And that's when the Jews were slaughtered by a massive Islamic army in the name of Muhammad. It's literally a call for genocide. The Jews in that area were annihilated, completely annihilated. Men, women, children, elderly, it didn't matter. The women were raped and then they were killed. The children were killed. I mean, it was a slaughter. So they're reminiscing and recalling and chanting about a freaking battle, a slaughter of all the Jews in the 7th century on the streets of London last night, 12 hours after this vile terrorist attack in Arabic, not even in freaking English. So the poor British people can say, at least we know what you're talking about. No. Now, you're telling me they're going to assimilate? You're telling me they're there to make Britain better? You're telling me that we can coexist with people like this? Britain's got a problem. We have listeners in Britain. I know this for a fact. You tell them, Jeff Kuhner told every single British citizen, in the next election, if you don't vote for Nigel Farage and the Reform Party, you're freaking crazy. You're nuts. I'm serious. You're nuts. Then don't complain because you get everything that you deserve. 617-266-6868. Raymond in Arlington. Thanks for holding, Raymond, and welcome.
Hello, Jeff.
Raymond, go ahead, my friend.
Hey, how are you, Jeff?
Well,
I love you in a non-sexual way,
listen,
buddy.
I'm still fuming over K-Bar 628, my friend.
Look here's the problem, right?
What they did 1,400 years ago, Raymond, I can't get it out of my system. I can't forget about it. Go ahead, Raymond.
Currently, we have Omar, everybody in office, right? This is only going to get worse. You really need to figure out a way to stop these people because it's just going to continue and continue. They're all brainwashed, same as the left, no different. A lot of brainwashing when you're young. It's going to be bad. The only problem is nobody's pushing back. And I'm not a tough guy. I'm not trying to be a tough guy, but somebody has to do it the right way. Figure out a way so that they stop using our laws against ourselves, because that's what they do. Bottom line, they're using our laws so they can prosper. We got to stop that. Somebody has to stop that. I got nothing else.
Look, Raymond, I think you're 1,000%, not 100, as I like to say. You're 1,000% correct. And to me, it's very simple. Okay, it's just we are lucky. We're not in great. Farage, you think Trump had a mess? Holy, who wants to be this guy as prime minister when he wins? I think he will win. I hope to God he wins. What a mess! What a mess! But anyway, we're in a better position. Okay, we're not in their position because we don't have as many. We got to do three things. One, you don't let another one in. Period. That's it. If you want a full immigration moratorium, I don't care. But don't let another one in. Period. Number two, cut off the welfare. You've got to cut off the welfare, obviously, to every illegal. And many of these illegals are these Muslims in places like Dearborn and Minneapolis. Cut off the welfare. And that will drive them out of our country. And number three, ban Sharia law. Congress needs to step in. The president needs to step in. Ban Sharia law. Period. Period. If we do these three things, we're fine. We're fine. But you're right. We got to act now. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. The people are emailing me saying, Jeff, this army, this massive crowd of protesters, these pro-Palestinians chanting these genocidal slogans, are they older? Are they younger? No, they're very young men. I mean, there's some women as well, but they're young men. I would say 20, 21, 25. So, it's shocking to see it. Now, I want to read this. This is from a listener who is in Britain, in England, is someone who's of Jewish descent. And here's what he wrote. Jeff, you're right. You also have listeners here in Britain. And I've been listening to you now for years. Everything that you've been talking about all show is, as you like to say, 1,000% correct. I want to stress to all of your listeners in Kuhner country that the situation now here in the UK is beyond dire. And I want every American to know that whether it's on American college campuses or on the streets here in Great Britain, when they shout, globalize the Intifada, this is what it means. Jews dead in pools of blood at a synagogue. Last night, people called for Intifada in London and Manchester. Can you believe it? Just hours after the massacre at the synagogue in Manchester. And nobody did a thing about it. And even now, today. And so the whole country is now looking to Keir Starmer and Downing Street. And they're asking, what are you going to do? And Jeff, the sad answer is, they're going to do nothing. Jeff, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. Please tell this to all of your American listeners. My family is British to the core. My ancestors go back 500 years. They fought in World War I for king and country. They fought in World War II. Some of my family even fought in the Falklands. We now have made a decision. There is no future for us anymore. Not here. We are leaving to Israel. Shalom. Do we want that here? Do we want that here? That's the question now. 500 years. Gone. Gone. Lou in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Lou, and welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Jeff. I have a couple things. Number one, before I get to my topic, number one, Qatar has been buying a lot of influence in the United States. And especially they're trying to buy influence on the right. And there are a couple actual right-wingers, prominent right-wingers, who are like totally anti-Israel, totally anti-Jewish. It's Israel, 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 like 100% of the time. I think you know the two I'm talking about. And they're trying to divide MAGA and Christians in this country and just go against the Jews. And I think they're aligned. A lot of it's aligned. You never see the left criticizing them. And the fact of the matter is that that the Jewish thing and the whole Israel thing is a diversion away from this whole intifada caliphate thing that's going on all over the world. Now I'm going to get to my main points. Number one, I think you didn't mention, and you mentioned a lot, believe me, you didn't mention Tommy Robinson and the grooming gangs in England.
Yes,
because it wasn't always about Jews. It was about a Pakistani grooming gangs grabbing British girls off the streets and keeping them as sex slaves. And it was hidden by the woke left in the country and covered up by the woke left. Just like the woke left in this country covers up illegal crime. They're all basically the same, these wokesters. The wokesters are the biggest enablers of these Islamists. Okay, and the second point I think I'd like you to talk about is they always talk about genocide, genocide, genocide. The biggest genocides in this world, especially today, are carried out by Muslims. In Nigeria, finally Bill Maher is talking about it, among a number of other people. In Nigeria, there's like 30 or 32 Christians killed a day. There's been like 100,000 killed or more. Christians are being killed in Syria along with the Druze, and the only ones helping them are the Israelis. But nobody talks about that. And then there's Sudan, and then there's Somalia, and Christians in the Muslim world are in a really in bad shape. And the other thing about that is if they do take over Israel, the Islamists take over Israel, you know that in the Quran they don't recognize Christ as being crucified, and so all the holy sites the way of the cross, and all these holy sites. What do you think they would do to them? If they got control of Israel, no Christian would be allowed in there, and they would just basically destroy them or hurt them and keep Christians out of there, and probably restrict any Christians that live there. Christians are restricted all over the Muslim world. Qatar, they're restricted. Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, all these countries. I mean, there is no religious tolerance.
You're completely right, Lou. Absolutely everything.